Hey everyone, it's Eric from the Cool Fat Burner, trapped at home like everyone else. All kinds of workout at home videos popping up, but they're all pretty boring and generic and the same old common sense stuff that everyone already knows. So let's do some exotic, unusual, more esoteric exercise techniques thrown into a workout. Let's do a 3-day cycle, day 1, 2, 3. Day 1 will be lower body pushes, quads and calves. Day 2 will be chest and triceps, upper body pushes along with abs. And then day 3 we'll do all the posterior chain, all your pulling muscles. That means your back, biceps, hamstrings, glutes. Those 3 days can be spread throughout a week, or you could do them 3, a day off, another 3, or 3, 3, and the 7th day off, however you like. So day 1, starting with legs. One of the more unusual or unorthodox techniques we're going to use are long duration static holds. Sometimes these are done up to 5 minutes long. I can guarantee you that pretty much no one watching this video can do a 5-minute static hold. I can't do it. I'll be doing a 2-minute one here. And remember the technique for this, hips are forward. Don't cheat and let them turn, open up. On the ball of the back foot, front leg should be nearly or somewhere around 90 degrees. Torso should be more or less erect, straight up. Trying to bend over too much. Lean forward as you start to lose balance and as you start to fatigue. This of course works both quads as well as hip flexors. If you're so tight that you have to come up here, you're cheating it and you really need to work on mobility. So that's the first one, I'm doing it for 2 minutes. We're actually going to start with calves. When you do your calf work, especially with body weight, it's good to pause at the bottom at least 2 or 3 seconds. That way you completely remove and eliminate the stretch reflex. If you bounce at the bottom with calf raises, you're probably working more your Achilles tendon and fast twitch fibers, which is great for sports applications, but for hypertrophy, for maintaining muscular size and strength during a layoff from the gym, you want to go slow, pause at the bottom, remove the stretch reflex. Okay, so day 1, alternate back and forth between calves, lunges, calves, super slow body weight squat, 1 single rep. Similar to the lunges, you could do just the lunges and nothing else for a 2 or 3 week cycle for your leg workout, working up to a total of 5 minutes. That could be, single 1-minute squats or a 2-minute followed by a minute and a half for the total of 5, whatever. And that will be the workout. Well, with this single super slow body weight squat, you should be able to work up to 3 minutes. I'm only doing it a minute and a half here. This is the first I've done this in years. On the 2nd and 3rd week, I would be approaching and reach a 3-minute squat. Then you fully rest and recover afterwards, during which you would, do calf work on your calves. And then you might do 2 or at the most 3 of these single super slow body weight squats. Obviously I started with the lunges, now I'm doing the single squat, and then finally we will move to what are called Gironda squats or so-called sissy squats. These things are crazy. So technical aspects to look out for here. Your heels are off the floor, and at the bottom of the rep, your feet should almost be like perpendicular off the floor. Try not to pull with your hand. This is the first I've done these at this location, ever, so I'm a little awkward with them. In fact, I intended on doing 10 reps, 5 and 5. I think I only do 9. The reason you want to switch is because the guiding hand, it kind of throws you off balance a little, so that the closer leg doesn't work quite as hard due to the guiding hand. That's why I always switch and break them up half and half and guide with the other hand, so I'm getting equal balanced work on each quad. Sometimes I'll put a band around my knees and have a light, low resistance band, so I have to force the knees out, but I didn't do that here for this workout. But as you can see, you alternate between calves, lunges, calves, lunges, switching legs each time for those. Calves again, a single super slow body weight squat, and then finishing with the Gironda squats, alternating the grip, the balance hand halfway through. That is your leg workout. This will be a new stimulus for most people. You will experience gains on this, even if you're intermediate or even advanced. Even if you're an advanced lifter, you will make gains doing this workout because it will be a new stimulus. Then afterwards, I did a post-workout refeed with cookies and toaster strudels, 4 cups of milk to wash it all down. That's a good 40 grams of protein, give or take. But I'll be in a slight caloric surplus for the day, so I need less protein. I'll do an evening cool fat burner session, low intensity, low calorie burn. This is more about blood glucose uptake in case I overdid it with the refeed. I want to pull up any extra glucose I have into the muscles, and that will wrap up day 1. So good leg workout, moderate refeed, well, pretty generous refeed, and then a low intensity cool fat burner session. Okay, so in day 2, I'm actually going to start in the morning with a Gutbuster session. The Cool Gutbuster is the first fat-freezing stomach wrap ever made back in 2013. We showed way back then that we were able to duplicate the same temperatures used in the original Zeltic coolsculpting trials. We never really pushed or marketed the Gutbuster for coolsculpting, cryolipolysis at home, because despite what some people out there would try to make you believe, coolsculpting does not produce really huge effects. It's more for spot reducing and fine tuning once you've lost weight. Okay, so for day 2, you have chest, tris. There's not a whole lot of variety here. It's almost certainly has to be some sort of push-up. If you don't have push-up strength, start by pushing against the wall and leaning out against the wall. You can go off your knees, use a pad, use a towel for your knees. If you have to, push off a raised surface. Just to start. Again, you can do the slow duration static holds, hold at the bottom real long. You can do the reps super slow, or you can do them really fast. You can see here I start out with resistance bands. Sometimes I'll do a real slow rep down, hold at the bottom for a number of seconds, come up normal speed. Whatever you do, I'd recommend doing 2 or 3 week cycles and trying to improve the variables, whether it's more reps, slower reps, longer hold, heavier band, whatever. Now for the last part here, I'm going to do a particular type of high repetition work using blood flow restriction bands or occlusion bands. These allow arterial blood to flow into the limbs, in this case my arms obviously, allows the blood to flow in, but it slows venous blood return. What this does is accumulate waste products in the muscle, causes the muscle to fatigue faster, so it simulates basically going heavier longer, but with lighter weight. So you do sets of 30, followed by 4 sets of 15, recovering a minute and a half between each. When you do these, you want to make sure they're not so tight that you feel any discomfort, no numbness or tingling or anything of that nature. Also because, with push-ups, wherever you place your hands, your tighter in is going to work triceps, further out will be more chest. I also messed around with some bands for tricep, basically French press, overhead tricep extensions, whatever you want to call them, and I do it as well with a kettlebell. Keep in mind, a lot of the stuff I'm using here, the bands, the BFR straps, the TRX, and especially the kettlebells, these things will last forever. They'll last a lifetime. So even though it's a bit of an investment to start with, $200-300 for everything I have, it'll last forever. You can use it forever. And for day 3, back, posterior chain, all your pulling muscles, we will warm up with some body weight work. And if you're new to this stuff, you just do only the body weight work. That could be your workout. And if you have absolutely no equipment, you can jury rig a towel the way I do here. It's not ideal. I don't really like it because it focuses so much on your grip, more so than your lats and your back. But if you have nothing to go with, you can start with here, focus on the slow negative, make your back do the work, not your arms and not your grip, even though obviously they will. And then go immediately from your pull-up negatives to a door jam, kind of a super slow inverse row. I believe it's around 45 seconds, and you can go back and forth between these. And if nothing else, this will be a decent workout, especially if you're not used to working out. And now for the primary workout, I'm going to do bent over rows with the kettlebells, 53 pounds each. We superset that with a TRX super slow, not super slow, but controlled inverse rows for a few reps. And then I follow that with some hamstring work. The TRX, the benefit there is there's a lot of stabilization going on. And again, that can be a new stimulus if you're just used to using machines. Or even with barbells, a lot of times there's not a whole lot of stabilizing going on, at least compared to things like this, straps, unless you do like earthquake bar or more exotic lifting methods. So that's the giant set, is bent over rows with kettlebells, followed by TRX, followed by hamstring curls. I'm doing 10, 15, maybe 20 reps each, and that will hit your back and your hamstrings, and all that leaves are your glutes. I'll do a double set here of kettlebell swings, followed by banded good mornings. The kettlebell swings, my technique's a little goofy here. I have shoulder and wrist issues from my martial arts training back in the day, so I have to really compensate, so my arms look a little weird doing these. Keep in mind that amongst the biggest mental cues when you do swings, it's supposed to be an explosive hip hinge. It is not a front squat. Repeat, it is not a front squat followed by a frontal raise. It is an explosive hip hinge that then forces your arms up. The explosive hip hinge should be what lifts your arms. Like 90% of the lift of the kettlebell should be from the explosive hip hinge and not your shoulders lifting the kettlebell. And then I go straight from those to putting on bands around my neck and doing the banded good mornings explosively. And by the end of, I'll do this 2 or 3 times, the superset. By the end of that, glutes are totally pumped. So with that, you've hit your entire posterior chain, your lats, biceps, hamstrings, glutes. That evening I actually had another refeed. Really wasn't necessary, but I figured what the hey, and I did another low intensity cool fat burner session. Not trying to burn a lot of calories, just trying to pick up any extra glucose floating around in there. Non-insulin mediated glucose uptake into the muscles, into the brown fat and brown adipose tissue. And that wraps it up. There's a 3-day cycle, a little bit of cool fat burner, a little bit of cool Gutbuster on top of basic yet somewhat unorthodox training methods, body weight, resistance bands, blood flow restriction bands, a few kettlebells, TRX strap. If you don't have the equipment, you can do it with a body weight the way I showed. You can do long duration static holds, super slow reps, super high reps. And all of these things will provide stimulus. And if you're not used to that stimulus, this will be a new workout. It will force growth. If you already hit the sort of activity that these workouts did, this will at the very least be a low effort maintenance routine. You can do this for this or variants of these exercises for the next month or two. Be good to go when the gyms open up. All right, till next time.